When the 2002 Major League Baseball All-Star Game ended, a lot of people were pissed. And it wasn't because of a bad call or a player getting hurt on a dirty slide. No, it was something far worse. It ended in a tie. And from the MLB's inability to do quick math that night, a ripple was sent through the space-time continuum that nearly allowed computer hackers to affect the outcome of a World Series. Yes, you heard that correctly, and the story behind how that almost happened is coming up right after this. Before we get into how a bunch of elite hackers nearly changed the result of a World Series, let's put a zoom lens on the 2002 All-Star Game. Played in Miller Park in Milwaukee, the game was tied 7-7 after 8 innings. As per tradition, pitchers get used up so that everyone who made the roster gets to say they played in an All-Star game. But by the time the 11th inning rolled around, all the pitchers had been used up. Remember, for all intensive purposes, the All-Star game is an exhibition, and back then the outcome didn't really mean anything. So with the commish on site in his own ballpark, he declared the game a tie, probably because it would have been worse had Junior Spivey come out on the mound to pitch. The backlash was swift and immediate. Fans threw bottles, the media did their thing and whined, and Bud Selig, of course, got egg on his face. Instead of letting the news cycle die by waiting until the next celebrity sex tape came out, Selig had an idea. Let's make the All-Star Game count for something. That's right, starting in 2003, home field advantage for the World Series would be determined by which league won a meaningless exhibition game in mid-July. What's the worst that could happen? So if you say the home field advantage matters very little in the World Series, which is the only 7-game championship that follows the 2-3-2 format, you're wrong. The home team wins 54% of the time. In games 1 and 2, the home team has a significant advantage, winning 61% of the time. Even at 54%, which seems minor, a smart bettor is going to bet on the team with the advantage. Statistics aside, which we will get into later, the All-Star Game did now actually have meaning. And one flaw that Selig didn't see was how Rico in his basement, who talks to hot chicks all day on the internet, could actually manipulate his league. Stuffing the ballot box has been around a long time, except back before the internet and such, fans could only vote either via mail-in or at the ballpark. It took a real effort to get marginal or unknown players onto the field. But around the late 90s, the MLB decided to use an online voting system, one that allowed any fan to vote 81 times, one for each home game, to put their favorite players onto the field. Fast forward to the summer of 2015, the resurgent small market Royals are having a great season. Coming off a 7-game loss in the 2014 World Series, the Royals were on a mission, and some hackers wanted to give them some help. As balloting for the All-Star Game started to unfold, something was quite off. Before the game, these were the names that were in the fan voting lead for each position. Okay, 7 of the 9 listed happen to be Kansas City Royals. And you could really question those names, especially Escobar, who was batting a little over 250 at the time, Moustakas, who was competing with Manny Machado and Josh Donaldson at third base, Morales for the DH role when Nelson Cruz was tearing up the league, and Alex Gordon, Eric Hosmer. I mean, solid players, but not all-stars. As soon as these results started getting tallied, the media and any fan with a brain knew something was up. And when Hookslide from SB Nation posted an article on June 19th that he hacked the MLB voting system in under 20 minutes, the rigging made national news. How he did it? He figured out that even way back in 2015, the MLB had no verification of a key piece of information involved in the voting process: your email address. So any email address, including the Falcons blew a 25-point lead at NFL.com, could be used to vote up to 35 times each. Throw some JavaScript and a few Chrome extensions on there, and all of a sudden you have a rigged vote. And that's how things were looking, as a group of Royals fans thought it would be funny to slant things towards their guys that were in the middle of a pennant race and wanted home field advantage in the World Series really, really bad. And after the article was published and the ensuing backlash that followed, the MLB took immediate action on the balloting process. And though all of these votes were cast 100% legally through their flawed system, 65 million votes were tossed out. The final elected starting lineup ended up being As you can see, not much changed. However, the actual starting lineup did change a lot as Miggy decided to sit the game and Alex Gordon was questionably hurt, and Adam Jones deservedly took his spot. In the end, only Kane and Perez started for Kansas City. One more thing I forgot to mention, Ned Yost was already the manager for the game, so if ever a team had an incentive to win and the manipulative power to do it, the Royals had it. And the AL won easily 6-3 with Mike Trout, who batted leadoff, winning the MVP award. Now, what you've been waiting for, let's look at how and why the rigged voting could have affected not only the outcome of the All-Star game, but ultimately the World Series. What if the hackers had gotten their wish? For one, the Royals would have had 8 starters, and All-Star game starters typically play more than the reserves. Could one game of play or rest affected the outcome of the entire World Series 2 months later? We'll get to that. What about the players Yost did use in the game? Did he utilize them properly? Dallas Keuchel started and pitched 2 innings, and the Royals eventually faced him in the ALDS, which he started only 1 game and won, but the Royals won the series. Really though, nothing Yost did stands out from the game, so cross that off the list of factors. Now let's look at the advantage the Royals got from the AL winning the All-Star game in the World Series itself. The Royals won the World Series in 5 games. Home field advantage was huge for them in Game 1, and they won it in extras. They would end up winning Game 2 easily and never had to come back to Kauffman Stadium. Just how did the unsuccessful hacking help them? Well, as I said before, the home team wins Games 1 and 2 60% of the time, and that was a huge advantage for them to go into Citi Field up to nothing. And it was also a huge advantage for them that Terry Collins was the manager of the Mets. Which again leads us to the question, what if the hackers had done their bidding and the weakened AL team actually lost the All-Star game? Had the first 2 games occurred at Citi Field, you might have seen a different outcome, at least in Game 1, especially regarding extra innings, as the home team has a clear advantage in that department as well, winning 53% of the time. Jerry's Familia might have been able to keep his fastball down at Citi Field, and Alex Gordon, who could have felt obligated to play in the All-Star game, might not have had the energy to lift one to dead center directly into the wind and majorly screw the Mets. There it is, your smoking gun, folks. Signed, sealed, and delivered. The hackers rigged the World Series by not hacking the All-Star game. Had they got their wish and the AL lost the game, the Mets would have won the World Series. But really, if you do the math, during the time that home field advantage was determined by the All-Star game, which has since been changed so that the team with the best record gets it, the home team won exactly 50% of the time. And guess what? The year before, the AL won the All-Star game and the Royals had home field advantage in the World Series, and they lost. Mostly because Mad Bum was pitching out of his freaking mind. Did the hackers, or lack thereof, really have any impact on the outcome of the World Series? We'll never know for sure. I do know one thing, Matt Harvey can stick it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe all the way so that you can hack the YouTube algorithm and get notified right away when I upload. And again, don't forget to use my code BASEHIT10 in the FanDuel app so that you can get a 20% cash bonus on your first deposit. I'm 5 Points Vids, and you made it to the end of this video.